Hey everyone, welcome back to Brown Coat Nerd. We've got another Should You Buy episode. This time we will be looking at the Yugoslavian Zastava M48, complete with my NATO beach towel of the former Yugoslavia region. Oh, the random stuff you find on eBay. And this will probably be my last use for it, so I want to cash that in while I can. So what we're looking at here is the Yugoslavian M48 Mauser. Now, first and foremost, when I was looking around trying to get prices of this, I was looking around also for prices of the German K98. And a ton of these were actually popping up, along with the Czech Mausers. And that's just kind of an old classic kind of, I feel like a thing that a lot of people have tried to do is like pass these off as some kind of a German Mauser, or even saying it's World War II era. M48. These didn't start getting made until like 1948 or 1949. So these had nothing to do with World War II, at least action-wise. Really popularly, when I first got this, I posted some pictures in different groups, and everyone was like, oh, you got ripped off. You got a Mitchell Mauser. You got a Mitchell Mauser. If you guys don't know what Mitchell Mausers it was a company that they might still be around, but they kind of specialized in Mausers. I remember when I very first got into collecting, I would see tons of ads from them, and I was kind of blown away at how they had World War II era Mausers in unissued, pristine condition, and at relatively low prices. Well, they were trying to sell off these Yugo Mausers as they would list them as World War II era. I guess they could get away with that since these were made shortly after World War II. But these never saw any action in World War II. They weren't around yet. And what Mitchell Mausers really got in trouble for, not even that, which that right there is pretty shady, but it gets even worse. Apparently they took a lot of the K98s. Supposedly, they would add some symbols to kind of make them look more rare or more valuable. A lot of people also didn't like that they would go through these K98s and completely refinish them, stripping away a lot of the historical value of them. And then Mitchell Mausers would try to resell them kind of, I think, as like unissued or more rare Mausers than what they really were. So yeah, like when I was posting pictures, like people like left and right, I'm like, what the hell? It's an M48. It's not even a K98. But then I remember those old ads where they try to pull this off as World War II era. And I'm assuming a lot of people think they kind of pulled the same crap with this. There's no Waffen marks that have been stamped on this. And actually, this one is not even a Mitchell Mausers. I believe, what do we got? PW Arms, if you can see that. But anyway, so just so you know, if you get one of these and you see people commenting and you start going, oh crap, what did I just get swindled into? M48s, I don't think they did anything with them. It's very common to find an M48 in brand new, unissued condition. It's not rare at all. Actually, the M48s I come across, they typically, seem to be, either in new, unissued condition or, an absolute pristine condition. You will see some that are beat up and used out there. But while we're talking about it, I would not necessarily pay a premium for a unissued M48. Are you going to pay more for an unissued M48? Absolutely. But if you run into someone and they've got one of these and it's in pristine condition, some of them even still have the little tags on them from the factory, and someone's trying to sell it off for like $1,000 or something, man, pass. Really good condition M48s are not uncommon at all. That's not going to be the only one that you see. So I got this a couple years ago. Not sure how many years ago. But at the same time I did the 3-pin PSL that classic firearm sold. Got this from the same buddy that purchased one of those and then had to send it back. But I purchased this from him, and honestly, guys, I cannot remember how much I paid. I was looking back. I've got one of those apps that keeps track of everything, and I put absolutely nothing into as the date that I purchased it or how much. I want to say I spent between $300 to $400 on this, and that really is, especially at the time, was the typical price. That it wasn't even a big buddy discount or anything like that. Not that I'm offended, Chuck. I'm happy with this purchase. But These typically do not go for a whole bunch. So I was really curious, wanted to make this video for reasons that I'll get into later on if I remember. So I was looking around trying to figure out what these are currently going for, because for a while they were coming in like crazy. And then lately, not just these, but kind of almost everything has dried up. Every once in a while we'll get a sporadic shipment of something or other. But I was looking around online, and basically you're going to find these for $300 to $700, or at least the prices that I could find of places selling them online. That was the typical price range. Now, of course, I got to look up Cabela's, because they always have those prices that if you own one of them, you're like, ooh, I want to sell this, but you got to wonder how long has that been at Cabela's. I did find at Cabela's they had one for $800, which I was kind of surprised. I was expecting to see like $1,000 on that price tag or something. Some of the ones I was looking at that were listed down the low range for like, I think they were $350. They were listed as good condition, and looking at the pictures, they looked in very good condition. So that's a good price. Now, I kind of held out on getting one of these for a long time, because for a while I wanted to focus my collection on World War II era stuff. I quickly discovered that that was just going to be too expensive for my taste. And then I started collecting Yugoslavian stuff. And so my buddy Chuck was like, hey, I've got this. I know you like Yugos. You don't have a Mauser. Do you want it? And I was like, hell yes. So that's how I ended up with it. I held off for a while because I was familiar with these. And actually what's funny is at the time, I came really close to buying one. There's a few different models of these. You have the M48, the M48A, the M48B, which is actually marked in M48. I'll point out the difference though. And then you have the M48BO. And I don't think those, I can't remember if those were marked BO or if they simply did not have a crest here with the model number. And you can see this one says M48A, but this is indeed a M48B. So your standard M48, it will not have a stamped magazine floor plate, a milled one or whatever. And I actually, like I said, I was getting ready to buy one of these and they ran out of the standard ones and they only had the Bs. And just looking at it, I was like, oh, that's just, it's ugly. You know, and so I held off. And then they kind of dried up after that. I mean, in reality, this is probably more ideal. You don't need a super strong base plate. And I would imagine this is a little bit lighter. So the M48B, what that got was also a stamped trigger guard. Now, this one's not super obvious, and I had to go looking at it. Because when I bought this from Chuck, he's like, no, it's an M48B. You know, and then I'm like, this is M48A. Does Chuck know what he's talking about? And then I looked into it, and Chuck did know what he's talking about. So the original trigger guards were milled. It was one solid piece. You can see here, it is actually two, like the inner ring is one piece, and then the outer is another. It's two stampings. Once again, reducing light, making it a little bit cheaper. Nothing that would really bug me. So if you have a stamped trigger guard, that is actually a B model, and that is what Zastava called it. That's not like some American, you know, like how we started calling the AK-74U crinks or anything that was short of crink. You ask a Russian what a crink is, he has no fucking clue what you're talking about. But the M48B is actually a real model number. For whatever reason, they just kept the M48A stamping, and really it's just kind of more evolution in that direction of the M48A with the stamped base plate. They just took it further with the trigger guard, and then later models, your barrel band would be stamped, and you'd be able to tell, if I can't get the angle right, but you can kind of see, like the trigger guard, it'd be a little insert where the sling goes in, and this one's actually milled, so it's an earlier M48B, and the same story with this guy. And I remember when these were coming in and they were offering both, I don't really think there's a price difference on the different ones. I think the BOs were a little bit cheaper because they didn't have the Yugo crest, and of course everyone wants, because Yugoslavia does have a pretty cool looking crest there with the torches, and they put that on several firearms, so if you have like a Tokarev or something, you will know that crest. So I don't really think they did much of a price difference. If I were selling them, if I had like an M48B and an M48A and the condition was the exact same, I personally, honestly, would probably sell, or excuse me, a standard M48 against the M48A or B. I would probably sell the standard M48 for like, honestly, like $10, maybe $15 more if they were in the exact same condition and that was really the only thing that was different on them. Me personally, I would put a little bit of an upcharge on it, but not much at all, because it's not a huge deal. So if you see one of these and it has a stamped magazine plate, if the price is right, man, just go for it. They're not made any crappier than the earlier ones. They're still going to be good. So once again, if you like looking around for K98s, you will see these pop up a bunch. And like I even saw one listing, it was like K98 Yugoslavian M48. It's like, those are two different nations, two different guns. So also, if you're buying a K98, make sure you don't get swindled and get one of these. And it does very much look like a K98, especially up front here. This is a thicker stock though. I mean, I didn't even realize that until I actually held the K98, and I was surprised at how much smaller and lighter those K98 stocks are. This does have the cupped butt pad, which some of the K98s have, and is very iconic. I feel like an iconic image of the K98s. None of these though had the little cigar or cigarette holder for the German snipers to put when they're shooting. I know it's a takedown device, but these don't have that, which I kind of wish they did, because those are actually kind of handy, but at the same time you get more wood. It looks pretty. And once again, like I said, there were so many of these in good shape. If you see someone trying to sell it, like trying to get more money out of advertising it as matching numbers, they're pretty much all matching numbers, even the ones that are used. I mean, you are going to find some mismatches. For example, this one, when Chuck bought it, I think this was sold to him as new, unissued, and Chuck said he looked through it and it appeared that way. I think he told me he shot it like 3 or 5 times, like 3 or 5 rounds. He just wanted to make sure it worked and he didn't want to shoot it anymore. And then I got it, I want to shoot this thing. Even then, I don't even know if I've even shot 80 rounds through here, maybe 80, no more than 80. So I haven't myself shot it a whole bunch. But anyways, this one, very interestingly, serial number ends in 393, and all the serial numbers on this match, bolt, stock, everything, except for the floor plate. Serial number ends in 233. So we went from 393 to, hold on, I'm looking at the wrong, I was looking at the batch number. Or the American serial number, that's what I was doing. I was like, hold on, I thought the serial number, I was looking at the American number. Okay, so the real serial number ends in 236. In the magazine floor plate, the serial number ends in 233. How the hell that happened, I don't know. I mean, 233 was just a few racks down from this one, I guess. And I did come across a lot of literature, and part of the reason so many of these are in great shape is supposedly the Yugoslavia army would pull these out of storage after like 3 or 5 years, clean all of the packing grease off of them, clean them up, and then repack them in grease and put them back in storage. So that grease didn't like congeal and dry up on here and kind of like stop doing its job. They would strip these down and then re-grease them, which that had to be a crappy job or a fun one. So that's another reason you will see so many of these in great shape. And Yugoslavia spat out a ton of these right after World War II, but they never really used them. Fairly quickly, they got the SKS, then they started spitting out AKs. You will see this in some old footage of the Yugoslavian civil wars. You will occasionally see this guy pop up. But the M48 doesn't really get a whole bunch of love. Now, Yugoslavia also did sell this gun, specifically the M48BO, to other nations. So you will find some that have like Ethiopian crest marks and different nation crest marks on there, which to me, even if it's not in great shape, I mean, is that more valuable than something like this? Because, I mean, almost all of these are Yugoslavian M48s. You don't see too many with a foreign nation crest on them, but that was a thing. And a lot of the BOs that you'll come across to whatever country bought them just never ended up putting a crest on them, so a lot of times they are just left bare. But just so you know that. Like I said, I haven't shot this a whole bunch. My shooting experience with it, you know, it was pleasant. I didn't shoot it a whole bunch, so I never really the accuracy was not bad on this, but I remember thinking I want to get to know this gun a little bit more so I could get better with the accuracy, because I do believe the potential of the accuracy of these is very high. And also, I kind of feel like maybe that barrel needs broken a little bit. I think that's a thing. And, you know, if this is an unissued one, it hasn't been shot that much. But it has a lot of the classic features, like I pointed out about the K98. One thing that is worth noting is the throw of the bolt. I forget exactly how much shorter it is than the K98, but it is shorter than a K98. And to me, that's a big advantage, because you don't have as far of a hand movement to chamber the next round for fast reloads. Now, one thing that this does not have that the K98 does have, and I do not know why they decided not to use it, and they're like the only country that makes AK magazines that have it built in. Whoa! All right, everyone okay? All right. This has no last round bolt hold open feature, which is just freaking bizarre to me, because I mean, all you got to do is just make a slightly different shaped floor plate, you know. But for whatever reason, they didn't want that. The K98 does have that, and you know, Yugoslavia is the only country that made AK magazines with a last round bolt hold open, you know, follower built into that magazine. So I just kind of thought that was a little bit weird. But you know, it's got the same style of safety. It takes down just like a K90. If you've got a K98, you're going to know how to clean this. You will have no issues there. But just know that parts aren't necessarily interchangeable. The bayonets, I'm pretty sure, are interchangeable. Not sure about the cleaning rod. And then other things like, I don't think the front barrel band might be. This guy might be interchangeable. I don't know. And then also, I do believe the front sight hoods are interchangeable. And you will very commonly see these M48s missing those hoods. I don't know if they just fell off easily, or if the soldiers would tend to take them off for some reason or another. But it does seem like you will find quite a few of those missing the hood. Once again, do not let that don't let that stop you from buying it, because you can find those hoods pretty readily available. They're not very expensive. So what would I spend for a K98? There I go. Mitchell Mauser's in me. What would I spend on an M48 now? Well, first of all, if you do not have any kind of a Mauser in your collection, this is a really good one. And it's a fairly cheap one, too. And like I said, you can typically find these in really good shape. If I really needed a Mauser for my collection and I found one in good shape, and as you can see, this one still has little, you know, kind of compression marks on it and stuff. I'm probably going to get laughed at, but if I really want one, I think I would be willing to spend $700. I don't know if I'd want to. I would definitely like budget and plan and try to find one for at least $500. But like I said, I was looking around. The prices vary greatly. And I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but online stores other than Cabela's, the price range is basically from $300 to $700. And I know one of them was in the $300 price range. I can't remember if it was the one that I mentioned earlier that was like $350, but I'm remembering now, and it was advertised as new old stock, which, like I said, these are pretty common. I don't know if it really was, because that was a killer freaking price on it. So if you want one of these and you see one in your local shop and they're asking for $600-700, I don't think they're necessarily out of line asking for that, especially if it's in good shape. But at the same time, no, if you are patient and you look around online, you might very likely will find something just as good for a much cheaper price. So the deals are out there on these, but the prices are going up. So if you're wanting one like right now, you're probably going to spend a premium. A lot of those websites I was looking at where they're like $300 to $400, I had the option to add it to my cart, so I would assume they were in stock. Royal Tiger Imports had one that was really cheap, and they brought a bunch in from Ethiopia, different guns, not just this. And I was looking at the pictures, and it actually looked in pretty good shape. It was definitely somewhere in the lower $300. They were one of the cheaper ones, and they offered $100 hand select charge. I was pissed off paying $25 to Classic for hand select. Holy crap, I couldn't imagine paying $100. Like, that thing better be pristine. But I just thought that was funny, so I wanted to share it. And the K98s, I was looking around. If you're thinking, oh, I like a Mauser, but maybe I should get a K98. I've never shot a K98. I've handled them. They are lighter than the M48. They're a little slimmer. And those were ranging in price from $1,000 to $1,500. And I'm sure there are some that are more expensive than that, depending on, you know, what year and exactly where it was manufactured and the markings and stuff. Those can jump up in price really quick. But really, the cheapest one I found was $1,000. And when I first got into collecting, like I said, I was kind of trying to concentrate on World War II stuff. K98 was one of the first things I wanted. And my budget was much less back then than what it is now. And I remember back then, like, I think $1,000 or $1,200 was the only prices I was finding them for, were the places that were selling them. There weren't very many available, but they were definitely demanding a premium. That price has not gone down. It hasn't gone up terribly much, which I was kind of surprised by, but it's not gone down. So if you're just wanting a Mauser and you're not terribly concerned about whether it was used in World War II or not, like I said, this is a great option. You can probably find one in really good shape for a decent price, and it's going to last you. They're good guns. They definitely have a history. 8mm is a fun cartridge to shoot. So going back to what I was saying, if I really needed a Mauser for my collection and I didn't care what country it was, I would probably look into the, I don't know if the Czech Mausers, because Czech has a version of this and they're almost identical. And I'm not sure what those prices go for. I would shop around a little bit. But as far as one in really good condition, you're probably not going to find another model out there available for you. One thing worth pointing out too before I forget, full disclosure, where is it? It does have a small stock repair right there, which I found interesting. So I guess someone, while they were cleaning and unpacking the grease, got a little too manhandly with it. But yeah, you know, this is a tough one. This really is a tough one, because I'm even sitting here looking at this gun, you can tell it's quality built. It's very nice. If I really wanted one, I would definitely spend $500, maybe $700. But if you got the patience, shop around, because there are cheaper options out there for you. And why am I doing this video on this? Getting one last chance to use my Yugoslavian bathtowel. I don't know if my flair for collecting Yugoslavia stuff has just died down or what. I did recently sell my Zastava M48A Tokarev. I put it on consignment to a local gun shop. Apparently another local YouTuber bought it, and then he sold it to a guy in Wichita, that lived outside of Wichita. Sorry, dude, I forget your name. We've kind of messaged back a few times. And then he messaged on my review for that gun. I was like, I don't know if this will get seen, but I've got this exact gun. So that was really freaking weird. So I did end up letting that M88 go for my collection, which was tough because it had the wood grips, it had the blued finish. Typically when you see M88s, they're like a parkerized or painted finish, and they've got plastic grips. But I reluctantly let it go. And then my buddy Chuck, the guy that sold this to me, he wants her back. And I told him if I ever sold it, I would let him know first. I wasn't even planning on selling it. And I don't know if you guys remember, but I did an old video years ago on a Spanish Star M30 that had a plum finish. That was Chuck's. And I just did a video on it because I thought it was beautiful and wanted to show you guys. I will soon be having a shooting impressions video on it because me and Chuck are going to trade. Chuck knows I've been eyeing that Star for a while. And I recently sold my Star M28 DA, which had me really ripped up. But the extractor, I was scared if that ever broke, I'd be screwed. Watch my video to get more details on that. So yeah, that's she's going to a good home. She's actually going back home. And I'm going to get a really sexy plum-colored Star M30. I'm excited about that one. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, maybe even found it a little bit useful. If you did, please think about liking and subscribing. I promise I will talk better. And Uber Eats is here, so I gotta go. Alright guys, stay safe and stay shiny.